And one of the things that's quite interesting too is that, one of the people sort of answered my question, then she turned around and actually, turned it back on me and said, well, where do you stand on these whole things? And I think that's probably a fair question to ask. So, haven't voted since 2000. I think it was the Green Party that I actually voted for. Generally voted Green, but Green Labour beforehand. Got to a point with things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement where I don't really see a difference between voting for Labour or voting for National. Either way, we're moving towards, the boat's drifting towards the right, and either pony that you jump on. Do I support the mandates? No, I think the mandates have served their purpose, and I think more importantly, the mandates are going to be part of a sort of a ramp into the next thing that they want to get through, which is the digital passport. Now, most of the places which are holding on to the mandates or have been quite sort of borderline, kind of draconian, like Canada, sending out the horses and people and charging down people and actually them getting killed in the protests. Most of them are actually based on the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, which is an alliance that's not just concerned about intelligence, it's concerned increasingly about things like the TPA, intellectual property rights of corporations, and the trade advantages of the West. They want monopolies. They want great controls of these areas. So, no, I don't support the mandates. I probably won't be voting for anybody in the next elections because, again, I don't see any candidates out there that really basically represent any of the causes that I'm on, i.e. anti-TPA, anti-Five Eyes, keeping us nuclear-free, keeping us GMO-based. And obviously, I don't want to have any involvement in a protest that actually turns politically violent. Asked about the whole issue of the leadership, how I saw it taking down. I think basically when you go to the most of the protesters, which I've covered from Southland to Christchurch to Picton and now in Wellington, what I'm finding is outside of the leadership circle, you're basically looking at about 60 to 70% of the people are what I would call bipartisan. They generally are people that don't have a lot of faith in either the national or the Labour system. I wouldn't call them right-wing. They're generally people that believe in things like democratic principles. Probably of that 60-70%, there is I'd say 30-70% kind of like I would call agnostic, and 30% I would call maybe 40% I would kind of have a lean towards some form of Christianity. Pretty bipartisan lot, so that's the outer circle. When I think you get into the internal circle, that's where it gets a little bit, it changes, the demographics quite change. I think they change. You can't say that they're 50-50. I think they are, in terms of a lot of people that are there because they've got access, they can afford the mics, the amps, the platform, the printing of bills. I think that then leadership sort of shifts more to about 60% on the right, 40% I kind of still remain bipartisan, but it kind of maybe balances up a little bit because that bipartisan group have been quite good because they're I think that's sort of their advantages. They've got better dialogue with the wider camp. So when things go a certain way, they're able to tap into that wider dialogue, and people tend to listen to them a little bit more than maybe some of those small groups that are there because they want to get into Parliament. There is a very much an acknowledgement within the camps that there are people there because they see it as a platform to build their power base. And again, they recognise that a lot of the media that's not MSM covered base is actually media that's either paid for by groups that have an interest group or have an ambition. So they they've got a sugar daddy, or they've got some people that have got political aspirations. So within the inner circle, it does lean a little bit more right. But again, the other aspect, of course, is that the other aspect of it, which is then you have the group of people that don't necessarily see it as a way to get ambition, to actually get their agendas actually out, but they seem to be more interested in focusing on polarising the other ones that are bringing the violence to the table and advocate it. Obviously, I've made it quite clear I do not support counterspin. Even I say Chantal Baker, I don't like her digs at the left. I think I like it when she keeps it like neutral, but I'm overall I can work with somebody like her because the constant message actually out has been peace, non-violence, and as a lefty, one of those people that her dad would no doubt definitely hate, I can still work with that because of the fact that the focus is on dialogue, not necessarily physical, disruption, destabilisation. The people like the Kelvin Alps, they just give me the shits, and I don't understand why people who, it doesn't matter about what I believe, I'm talking about what people believe, but there's the people that sort of into that whole kind of QAnon down the rabbit hole kind of shit, and a lot of those people seem to be very much tied in or affiliated, tuned to the message that Kelvin's saying. And so while they go on to believe in things like, secret societies and Freemasons, it doesn't seem to make any difference that Kelvin Alps, whose father's a Freemason, he's a Freemason, the son's a Freemason, he can be standing there with USA flags in the background, and we could show photos of people that he's associated with that have direct links to the Central Intelligence, and for these people they're still like, oh no, but he's the good Freemason. I think there's an element because also Kelvin's group are very good at writing big checks, and that tends to make people sort of soften up a wee bit when they see that there's a bit of patronage coming their way. At least that was my experience, especially when I worked with people like Vinnie Eastwood, who I no longer do, because they chose to walk away from their own values and accept the cash from people like Michael Stace, who's also a Freemason, also has American intelligence connections, and also like Billy actually could be found working for the Helen Clark government, or the Prime Minister's office if we want to be specific. So that's actually where I come from. That's how I'm seeing things at this current stage. And this has been Vigilant Deadline Report, slowly working my way to the bullshit factory.